Billionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
A poor man prayers,
every man bleeds.
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy SL550, and this is the N.G.L.A podcast. Today, man, we're going to be talking about Jerome Powell and how he's just standing in the way and costing Americans a lot of money in the process, man. And also, we're going to go over this Karoline Leavitt press conference, and she's pretty much going to go over a lot that's going on right now in Washington, which is a lot, man. Trump is definitely shaking things up, and I like it, man. I really do, man. It's a lot of people getting held accountable, and also just a lot of things that's just going to benefit Americans. So we're going to go through this video with RJ Talks, breaking down this whole Jerome Powell situation. He recently just had a hearing, and he's going to show like a little clip from it, and also just talk about this whole scenario with the Fed and how basically it's just crazy how this one guy has this much power to cost so much money, and it's kind of crazy when you really think about it. And then we're going to get into this Karoline Leavitt press conference, see what she talking about, get some updates. It's going to be a short one today. I'm actually just getting off work not too long ago, and I'm just going straight in because I missed yesterday. Been working overtime. And, yeah, man, I'm a little tired. So bear with me, but we're going to talk about some things today, man, for real. But let's get into this video with, see? That's how you know I'm tired. Before we start this video, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I truly, truly do appreciate it. Also, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time your boy drop a dope video. Let's get into this video with RJ Talks.
It is Tuesday, August 12th, and brand new inflation data released this morning. Are prices rising like they've been telling us they
It be on my mind every time to turn it off, and I don't. And I do it every time. It's so crazy.
would for months? For almost 7 months, we've been told prices would rise month after month. For almost 7 months, that they'd spike because of Trump's tariffs. Are they? No. They're not. Wait till you see this. And new shocking data showing who's eating these Trump tariffs. Someone has to pay for them, right? Wait till you see this. Something Jerome Powell was just forced to confront in the hands down best 5 minutes of Senate testimony all year. Jerome Powell getting cooked. This is a must-see clip, and more stories as well from around the country.
So now 17 past the hour, let's get to news about your money. Consumer Price Index released earlier today. And the big headline showing inflation rising 2.7% on an annual basis. That's lower than estimated. Wall Street reacting in a big way. The Dow is up 400 points, but booming. Wow.
So after 7 months of panic and fear that prices would rise, that the tariffs would cause inflation to spike. That's what we've been told now for months, almost 7 months now, and it hasn't happened. Not yet. Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal...
But just also remember who was telling you that. Democrats. A bunch of Democrats. And probably a few Republicans sprinkled in there that's willing to spread the Democrat propaganda.
Federal Reserve, someone who's supposed to be nonpartisan, who's supposed to go out of his way to never interdict on political decisions, even though many of us want him to at times. He's not supposed to. He's never supposed to weigh in on political matters, on policy. It's why as much as as many of us hoped during COVID, he would have said something about shutting down the entire economy, that it was a terrible idea. Or when the Biden administration signed that illegal executive order about their jab mandate. If you work at a company with over 100 employees, you must be jabbed or be fired. Remember that? Something that is clearly a risk to the U.S. economy, to our labor market, something that would affect inflation and the job market. Powell, though, saying nothing quiet about that. Yet when it comes to Donald Trump, when it comes to Trump's tariffs, he can't seem to shut up.
And what we're waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And
wait to see what happens. You seeing what's happening. The country is booming. Trump is making big deals with these foreign countries, many more to come. And even though he made that huge deal with the EU, Japan, the Philippines, this guy right here still wants to hurt the American people by not lowering interest rates. This guy, these people are frauds,
there's
bro.
a lot of uncertainty about that.
And remember what RJ said. He said they're not supposed to be political, meaning they're supposed to not get involved with anything that has to do, with between Republicans and Democrats. It's supposed to, the Fed is separate, which I don't understand why, but it is. And that's the reason why this guy holds so much power. And he's just standing in the way. It's definitely political, though, because we already seen, he showed you the clip of the Dow going up. The inflation projection numbers were actually lower than expected. So he knows this. This guy, he gets all of this news that we get way before we do. So he knows what the tariffs are doing. He knows that, all of the things that he and others have put out there are false and wrong. And things that Trump are doing are, boosting the economy.
Every forecaster you can name who is a professional, forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting a pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs, because someone has to pay for the tariffs.
So who exactly is eating Trump's tariffs? We're going to show you in a minute, because we have brand new data about this, shocking data. It sure as hell isn't Americans. It's now been almost 7 months, and so far, he's wrong. So wrong, in fact. July's CPI report dropping this morning. Inflation for last month, for the month of July, coming in at 0.2%, lower than expectations, and exactly where the Fed wants it. Lower than where they want it, in fact. They want 2 to 3% annual inflation. That's the Fed's goal. That's what they strive to see. Well, we're actually below that. Watch.
When you look at the key categories that we always look at, energy, food, and shelter, energy fell by 1.1%. That was largely driven because of gas prices falling in the month of July by 2.2%. Look at that food. I mean, this is where people...
Remember I was like, yo, gas down to $2.85. Now, gas fluctuates. It goes up, it goes down. I'm not really, too into the gas industry, the energy industry, but I have been paying attention to these things. When I go to the grocery store, I pay attention to the items that I'm buying and the cost of it. And I've been seeing changes. I've been seeing things go down. You look at these numbers and you see that U.S. inflation, is 0.2% in July. Like, that's crazy. And like this dude, he'll tell you, oh, well, at least the people I'm talking to. Well, the people you're talking to are obviously wrong. They're obviously wrong, bro.
Spend their money, right? Food every single day. Food flat, 0%, and actually down at the grocery store by 0.1%. And then shelter, we always usually see an...
Yo, hold on. So I want to say this too. Like, when you see these numbers, you think to yourself and you be like, because everything is compared to, you compare it to percentages all the way to 100%, even more. And you say, well, 0%, 1.1% is down 1.1%. That's not a lot. But when you compare it to the population of the United States of America, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, bro. A lot. Like, these numbers, like, we don't, the average person doesn't understand these numbers. I'm learning this stuff as I go also. So I'm learning with you. But just know that this is a big deal. This isn't like, like nothing to just, whatever. No, this is big shit.
Increase, because that is what people are paying on rent, and we know that rents are rising.
Energy falling again, down 1.1% in July. That's the price of gas. Down. Food prices haven't risen at all. Food and groceries coming in at 0% inflation on food. Realize that's basically deflation. The Fed wants 2% annual price growth. Well, if we have 0% price growth, that eventually turns into deflation because wages continue rising, but prices don't. Now, the three big sectors here, energy, food, and shelter, two of them are down. Energy and food prices both down. Not rising at 2%. Energy prices are down 1.1%. They fell 1.1%. The Fed wants them to rise 2%. They're down. Food prices, groceries, at 0%. The only sector that's up is shelter. And why is that? Because Jerome Powell refuses to cut rates. Home prices, rents, only come down if borrowing becomes cheaper.
So just think about that. Our rent potentially can go down across the board if this guy lowers the interest rates. But they don't, bro. The one common denominator between people like Jerome Powell and the Democrats is, when you sum it all up, they just want Americans to be poor. They want Americans struggling. Because that's all that they did. That's all they did. They wanted everybody to get jabbed, and if you didn't, you would lose your job, get laid off, whatever the case may be. All things that affect you negatively. All of these illegal immigrants came in, stealing all the resources from Social Security, Medicaid, food stamp, the SNAP program, like everything across the board. They were dismantling everything, and that's not even including, everything else Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was doing. Like, these people are crazy.
If Powell cuts the night rate, that's the one thing, the one sector that Trump can't control. Trump taking to Truth Social for a victory lap on this inflation report, and to once again slam and pressure Jerome Powell, announcing the DOJ will be filing a lawsuit against the Federal Reserve, writing this: Jerome Too Late Powell must now lower the rate. Steve Mnuchin really gave me a beauty when he pushed this loser on me. The damage he's done by always being too late is incalculable. Fortunately, the economy's so good that we've blown through Powell and the complacent board. I am, though, considering allowing a major lawsuit against Powell to proceed because of the horrible and grossly incompetent job he's done in managing the construction of the Fed buildings. $3 billion tax dollars for a job that should have been a $50 million fix-up. Not good. Meanwhile, more evidence continues.
$3 billion, and Trump is saying he could have did it with $50 million. Yo, remember I was saying that, they be spending taxpayers' money, bro. Like, everything that they, all of these projects, these so-called projects that need to be done, all of these scientific experiments and all of these labs that is just bullshit, trying to see if frogs can become mermaids and all types of goofy shit that they be spending your taxpayer dollars on. Just getting blown right in the wind. They overspend on everything. This is a fact. This is proven that these people get budgets, and at the end of the year, they literally can have money to put back in the pot, but instead of putting it back in the pot, they just overcharge, spending on everything. It's coming right back, man. All of these people are getting paid. Back alley deals, brown paper bag shit.
Continues surfacing, showing who is really eating these Trump tariffs. And it's not Americans.
It's so crazy.
Look at this shocking new data on imported car prices. Realize car prices is one sector you'd expect to see rise. So many pieces of a car are imported, exported. It's very difficult to make a full car, to manufacture a full car. This was one of the most worrying sectors, concerning sectors during the Trump administration's tariff rollout. This chart showing car prices, though, from Japan. All the experts have been saying that import prices will rise, especially on cars and trucks, and that Americans will have to pay more for the same products that we've been importing, especially car prices. Well, what do you know? This chart showing for years, year after year, import car prices were rising and rising until now. An almost 15% drop in prices. This is proof that whoever is eating these tariffs, it sure as hell ain't Americans. Instead, we're seeing prices fall for the first time. And wouldn't you just love to see Jerome Powell forced to look at this chart and explain it? Explain, how could you be so wrong, Chairman Powell? You're costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars a year in interest because you refuse to cut rates on a flawed theory. Americans can't buy homes right now because you refuse cutting rates. You say because tariffs will cause prices to rise. Well, if that's true, explain this chart then. Wouldn't that be a sight to see? Well, luckily, that's exactly what just happened. Jerome Powell testifying in front of the Senate Commerce Committee, getting spanked by Senator Bernie Moreno from the great state of Ohio. Senator Moreno using his 5 minutes of question time to hone in on why Trump's tariffs seem to be the only political topic you seem to talk about. You never once weighed in on Biden's policies, even when they directly affect the economy. But when it comes to Trump's tariffs, you can't seem to shut up, pulling out this chart that we just looked at and saying, explain how you've been so wrong, Chairman Powell. This was a great clip. It's a bit long. It's like 5 minutes, but it's worth watching. In my opinion. Roll the tape.
You can't. In other words, is it full employment is full employment? Every American has a job, but they're making minimum wage versus having a family-sustaining wage. Does that matter to the Federal Reserve?
It would matter to the country a lot.
I'm saying, does it matter to the Federal Reserve when you're making your decision?
Honestly, we don't really have the tools to affect that.
Right. So it doesn't factor in. Now that's different than us. The people of this country elect us to make certain that their wages are higher than inflation. And by the way, let the records show that real wages are up this year. So we've done that, not the Federal Reserve. Second piece of it is, let's talk about inflation first.
Well, we've helped control inflation, which is part of that.
We're going to jump right into the inflation conversation. There's different kinds of inflation.
Shit.
There's different causes. There's not witnesses to inflation. There's key actors to inflation. Would you agree?
Sure.
Okay. So let's talk about the actors. Did you comment during COVID lockdowns that was a bad idea, meaning that you're shutting down the entire economy? It's not a button. I hit the button, you can hear me. It's on and off. COVID wasn't that. We just shut down the economy. Any comments on that?
Of course not.
Okay, so you didn't comment on that. Vaccine mandates, something that my Democrat colleagues loved. If you don't get the vaccine, you're a terrible human being. You can't go to work. In fact, Joe Biden was overruled by the Supreme Court because he said that if you work in a company with more than 100 employees and you don't get vaccinated, the company has the ability to fire you, unless you prove that you're a negative.
Bro, just think if they still if Kamala Harris would have got elected, bro, and the Democrats was still in power, bro. When I be going through these videos and shit, I be really thinking about that. And I'm just like, bro, like I can't even imagine it, bro. Like things are so good, like, but like the reality is we was like this close to it happening. And to me, honestly, when you look at everything and you break everything down, their goal was to ruin America. That's the road that, you know, whoever was in charge, whether it was Obama, Hillary, whoever, all of them as a group, they were trying to dismantle America. Like in every which way. They was trying to make put men and women's sports. They was trying to tell kids that, you know, if you're a boy, you could be a girl. If you're a girl, you could be a boy. Like, just so much, bro. Like, it's crazy.
Negative on COVID. That obviously is a supply chain shock. Wouldn't you agree? If I'm running an assembly line, and now I have to put my people 6 feet apart, and now I have people quitting or not coming to work, or I have to fire them, that's a supply chain shock. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, it's a medical thing that you.
No, but it's a supply chain shock.
George Washington.
I'm not asking you to make a medical decision. I'm asking you to make a Fed decision on inflation.
Way outside anything we would comment.
But it affects inflation because supply.
It didn't. In fact.
Are you saying that supply chain shocks don't affect inflation?
They do, but that
okay, they do.
Didn't.
So that's clearly one. If you ban the export of liquid natural gas, which is going to cause the commodity price to go up, would that supply shock not also cause inflation?
Potentially could.
Yeah. So, and now the ranking member loves to talk about billionaire corporations, you know, that are going to get away with paying taxes, right? Who pays corporate taxes?
Yeah, they love that.
Like, who pays it? Is it like some obscure Wizard of Oz character behind the curtain that is a corporate entity that pays taxes? Who pays taxes?
I mean, ultimately, it's shareholders and customers.
So I'm going to read you a line. You tell me this is accurate. On taxes, it's not possible to know in advance precisely how the costs will be shared for taxes. I added
Correct.
that.
I would
but
agree.
it is highly likely that consumers will pay a meaningful share. Meaning if the ranking member has her way, let's just tax corporations at 100%. Why not? Be fantastic, right? Nobody would want to start a company, but that aside, that cost would be added to consumer products, correct?
A tax or a tariff? What are you talking about now?
If the income tax for American corporations goes up, they will share that tax burden with their consumers. True or false?
Yeah, ultimately.
Yeah. So then taxes do raise inflation, but you don't comment on it.
I mean, they haven't.
And you don't.
That's
but you
just
don't.
not true.
I got
empirically, it's not true.
The chairman's going to beat me up in 56 seconds. So, but you sent me a very nice letter, which I appreciate. And it says the Federal Reserve plays no role in commenting on trade policy. So you don't comment on supply shocks. You don't comment on tax policy, which clearly affects inflation. You don't comment on demand pull. You just said now that we should forgive student debt. Why is a person that goes to Harvard, that gets a gender studies major, pays Harvard obscene amounts of money because professors are grossly overpaid there? Is that person better than a working class Ohioan that is a plumber but can't afford a car because interest rates are too high and car prices have gone up? Why don't we forgive that person's car loan instead of forgiving their student loan? But you don't comment on that. You comment on tariffs. So I'm going to just show you.
I don't comment on tariffs at all, actually. I comment on
only
inflation.
Commented on tariffs.
I'm only commenting on the wisdom of tariffs.
The chairman's over there in the conversation. I'm going to show you a chart here. This is car prices.
I'm paying attention, however.
This is car prices since this year. Come on. Car prices are down. Car prices are down. Inflation in America is down. We got elected by millions of voters. You got elected by one person. He doesn't want you to be in that job. And you are costing this government $400 billion a year by refusing to lower interest rates. Nobody in this chamber has that kind of power to have a $400 billion impact on this economy, on our deficit. And I just think that you should consider whether you're really looking at this from a fiscal lens or a political lens, because you just don't like tariffs.
The pressure campaign clearly back on for Jerome Powell. We're now seeing cracks forming in the labor market, inflation not rising at all. This is the time to cut rates. In fact, they're late. They should have cut rates 6 months ago. Once the labor market breaks, it's almost impossible to fix. It takes years to correct. Hence why Trump's dubbed this guy too late Powell. Let me know what you think. Will the Fed cut rates in September? The next FOMC meeting is scheduled for September 16th. We're looking for a big cut, at least a 50 basis point cut. Last time, there was so much pressure on Powell, he almost had to refuse to cut rates just so he didn't look like he was being pressured.
Yeah, man, hopefully Trump can get that done. I think he will, though, because ultimately, you know, no one likes to look like the dickhead. And right now, he's looking like the dickhead because, you know, all of these news stations are reporting that that the numbers are down and that, you know, the predictions that they made on tariffs just ain't true. Their predictions aren't true. And it's actually the opposite. You know, prices are going down, but he's costing Americans money. They're the ones costing, not Trump. He's costing because lowering the interest rates will benefit Americans financially. So let's get into this last portion of today's video with Karoline Leavitt in this press briefing. Let's get it. See what they're talking about. Get the updates. Get the scoop.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see all of you here again today.
Turn this up.
On Friday morning, President Trump will travel across the country to Anchorage, Alaska, for a bilateral meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The brutal war between Russia and Ukraine broke out under Joe Biden's incompetent leadership, but President Trump is determined to try and end this war and stop the killing. As the president has said over and over again, his strong preference will always be for peace and partnership, whenever those outcomes can possibly be achieved. There is no leader in the world right now who has been more committed to preventing wars or ending them than President Donald Trump. Just look at what took place here at the White House last Friday, when President Trump hosted the Azerbaijani president and Armenian prime minister and got the two leaders to sign a historic joint declaration for peace, ending a decades-long conflict that disrupted the region and claimed countless lives. In other news, we continue to see positive economic reports across the board. Today's CPI report revealed that inflation beat market expectations once again, and inflation remains stable. Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9 average annual pace in President Trump's first 6 months in office. Prices for everyday goods continue to decline. Energy prices fell in July, including gasoline, which is down nearly 10% over last year, and propane, which is down 2.5% over last year as well. Egg prices fell once again in July and are down 20% since President Trump took office. Shelter inflation, the largest contributor to overall inflation, is at its lowest level since October of 2021. Wage growth for American workers is beating inflation once again. As inflation declines, this administration continues to be wholeheartedly committed to putting more money back into the American people's pockets. American real wages are up 1.3% over last year and have increased each month since President Trump took office. And small business optimism, according to this morning's report, has also reached a 5-month high. Ignore the panicans and trust in President Trump. That is our motto here at the White House. The America First economic agenda is working. On another matter, yesterday, President Trump took bold action to finally restore law and order right here in our nation's capital. The president declared a crime emergency in the District of Columbia, federalized the D.C. Police Department, and mobilized the D.C. National Guard to end violent crime in our nation's capital. As part of the president's massive law enforcement surge, last night, Approximately 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made a total of 23 arrests, including multiple other contacts. Last night, these arrests consisted of homicide, firearms offenses, possession with intent to distribute narcotics, fare evasion, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine, fleeing to elude in a vehicle, no permits, driving under the influence, reckless driving, and a bench warrant. A total of 6 illegal handguns were seized off of District of Columbia streets as part of last night's effort. This is only the beginning. Over the course of the next month, the Trump administration will relentlessly pursue and arrest every violent criminal in the district who breaks the law, undermines public safety, and endangers law-abiding Americans. President Trump will not be deterred by soft-on-crime Democrats and media activists who refuse to acknowledge this rampant violence on our streets. He is going to make our nation's capital the most beautiful and safe city on earth, just as he promised on the campaign trail. Staying on the topic of public safety, the Trump administration continues to shatter records on border security. According to brand new numbers released this morning from Customs and Border Patrol, illegal crossings have fallen to all-time lows once again. Here were the records set in July. Again, these numbers were released this morning. The lowest monthly nationwide encounters ever, down nearly 90% from the monthly average under the Biden administration. The lowest monthly Border Patrol apprehensions nationwide ever, smashing the previous record set the prior month in June. The lowest monthly Southwest border apprehensions ever. The lowest daily apprehension average ever. The lowest single-day apprehensions ever. And for the third straight month, there were 0 illegal aliens released into the country. Let me repeat that remarkable statistic. For the third month in a row, not a single illegal alien was released by the Trump administration into the United States.
Bro, you gotta really ask yourself, right? If they're reporting for the last 3 months, and even before that, because Trump been in office for over 6 months now, there's been low border crossings in the very beginning. Now, this is the third month of having 0. So the millions, allegedly, upwards of 20 million illegal immigrants that came in during the 4 years of Joe Biden being in office, that's how you know that it was a planned scenario. They wanted them here. They had they had plans. And luckily their plans didn't go. But just think about that. They didn't come here, by accident. They didn't, fight their way through. They were planed in, busting, all of that. Like, all of these things could have been avoided and prevented. But instead, they just allowed it to happen. Why? That's my thing, is that you have to ask yourself that question when these things happen. When all these events happen, when COVID happened, when, all the things that trickle down right after that, Trump losing the presidency to Joe Biden in the way that he lost and miraculously getting all of these votes overnight. You know what I mean? Like, and then him just being brain dead and everybody around him contributing to just the fall of America, and 0, bro, 0, which means if they want the border to be closed, the border will be closed. So all the bullshit about Trump blocked the border bill would have put more agents on the border, and it would have. They never wanted to stop illegals from coming in. They never wanted to stop it. That was a cop out. Trump had no control over that. He wasn't even president. He had no control over whether or not a bill gets passed. People would say, "Oh well, he a Republican. He could have just told the Republicans." Bro, you sound crazy. Anyway, let's get back to
United States of America. This is historic.
Zero.
Under
That's
President
crazy.
Trump, this border is the most secure it has ever been. When you fortify the border, when you restore deterrence, and when you empower Border Patrol agents and our brave men and women in uniform to actually do their jobs to enforce our laws, like this president has, this is the incredible result. And in the interior of our country, criminal illegal aliens continue to be arrested and removed. Here are some of the criminals arrested by ICE in just the last few days. ICE Buffalo arrested an illegal alien from Jamaica convicted of attempted murder. ICE Buffalo also arrested an illegal alien from Ecuador convicted of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. ICE Houston arrested an illegal alien from Mexico convicted of manslaughter. ICE Newark arrested an illegal alien from Mexico convicted of the sexual assault of a minor. ICE Dallas arrested an illegal alien from Mexico convicted of assault causing bodily injury. And already the Trump administration has arrested more than 300,000 illegal aliens in 2025. Again, more than 300,000 illegal alien criminals have been arrested in the interior of our country in the first 6 months of this administration. And despite many false reports in the media, nearly 70% of these arrests have been criminal aliens with criminal charges or prior convictions. This is success all around. This is removing the most dangerous public safety threats from America's communities and returning these individuals to their home countries. So there's been success all around. I'm sure you have a lot of questions today. I'm happy to get to them, so let's get started. And as always, we'll start with our new media seat, who is our podcast host today, Benny Johnson. Benny, why don't you kick us off, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Caroline. As a DC resident of 15 years, I lived on Capitol Hill. I witnessed so many muggings and so much theft. I lost track. I was carjacked. I have murders on my Ring camera and mass shootings. I witnessed a woman on my block get held up at gunpoint for $20, and my house was set ablaze in an arson with my infant child inside. And so to any reporter that says and lies that DC is a safe place to live and work, let me just say this. Thank you. Thank you for making the city safe, because no parent should have to go through what my family went through, having the fire department rip open their door to save their infant child. And so thank you for your work on securing this city. My question to you is this. Nancy Pelosi has attacked the president for deploying the National Guard to the city, saying that it is to cover for his incompetence. Hillary Clinton has also attacked the president for securing the city of Washington, D.C. I'd like to get your response to Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton.
Sure. Well, first of all, Benny, I'm so sorry that happened to you and your family. There have been, unfortunately, far too many victims of crime in this city, and I know the majority of residents in the District of Columbia agree with you. In fact, a new poll from the Washington Post I was reading this morning, this was released in May of 2024, so it's quite funny how many of you in the media agreed with what the president was saying yesterday, but now once the president says it, many of you are disagreeing with him. But this poll released by the Washington Post found that 65% of district residents think crime is an extremely serious or a very serious problem, and this was up from 56% last year. So the concern that you share with so many other residents in the District of Columbia is real, and that's why this president is taking action to address it. To get to the heart of your question, I think it's despicable that Democrats cannot agree that we need more law and order in a city that has been ravaged by violence, crime, murders, property theft. This should be a winning issue for all Americans. I don't understand. It's just anything President Trump does, the Democrats want to disagree with. I think the president would love to work with Democrats on this issue to bring law and order to America's cities, but unfortunately
they love chaos. When BLM was burning down, what was that, Minnesota? They was loving it. They was like, yes. They love crime. They love illegal immigrants. They love anything that causes chaos. Why? I don't know. But one thing that we all have to agree on is that they have no solutions to anything. Anything. They could disagree with Trump all day long, but what are they doing that is better? What have they done that is better? Nothing. They have no solutions to anything, bro. These people are just there. Like, they've been, like, Nancy, Bernie Sanders, all of them, they've been there for decades. Decades. And the cities that they were in charge of are shitholes. Just a fact, bro. They just want to go against Trump. This is all it boils down to. But what benefit does that have for anything? Nothing.
Have failed,
and
that's why
he's
taken this historic action to federalize the National Guard. And as you're seeing from last night's numbers, we already have seen success. We are removing violent offenders, we are arresting criminals, and we are removing drugs and firearms off of the streets of the city to make it safer for all of its residents.
Just a very quick follow-up to that. Given the heroic actions of a member of this administration just a few blocks from this building, will the president consider giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Big Balls?
I haven't spoken to him about that, but perhaps it's something he would consider. I'll ask him and get back to you, Benny. Thanks for being here. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding the Putin and President Trump summit on Friday, why not invite Ukrainian President Zelensky to that summit? I know the president said yesterday that he planned to speak with him right after the summit and even before, but why not invite Zelensky, and whose decision was it to not invite him? Was it the president, or was it President Putin?
Well, this meeting came about because the president of Russia asked the president of the United States to meet through his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who, as you all know, traveled to Russia to have a conversation with Putin at his request. And so the president is agreeing to this meeting at the request of President Putin. And the goal of this meeting for the president is to walk away with a better understanding of how we can end this war. And the president said at this podium yesterday, when he joined all of you in the room, that he hopes in the future there can be a trilateral meeting with these three leaders to finally bring this conflict to an end. But this administration has really used every lever, has taken every measure to achieve peace through a diplomatic solution. And I think the president of the United States getting in the room with the president of Russia, sitting face to face rather than speaking over the telephone, will give this president the best indication of how to end this war and where this is headed.
And another question on something that happened yesterday, but I wanted to get the White House response. A judge
Biden would have never did it.
That the grand jury transcripts in Ghislaine Maxwell's case should not be released. What's the White House response to that? And do you plan to appeal? And what do you tell President Trump's supporters who want that information released?
We think that decision is unfortunate. Of course, we moved to unseal that information because the president has said he wants to see credible evidence released. As for the appeal process, I would defer you to the Department of Justice for that.
Rachel. Thanks so much, Caroline. We're learning that President Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Zelensky. I was curious if you can share any more details about their call, and did Zelensky give President Trump any red lines, any non-starters ahead of this summit on Friday?
Look, I don't want to reveal the private conversations between the president and President Zelensky, but what I can tell you is that the president has deep respect for all parties that are involved in this conflict and are trying to bring this conflict to an end. After Special Envoy Witkoff returned from his meeting with President Putin in Russia, his first phone call was to President Trump. And President Trump's first phone call was to President Zelensky and to our friends in Europe to keep everybody in the loop about where the United States can see moving the ball forward to end this conflict. And so we continue to be very much engaged with President Zelensky and the Ukrainians, but also our allies in Europe as well.
And then just one more for you. How does the president measure success coming out of this meeting? The president at times has suggested that Putin might be tapping him along. Is he prepared to walk out of this meeting if he senses that Putin is not serious about ending this war?
I think I just answered that question for you and what the goal and the expectation of the meeting is. And I won't jump ahead of any hypotheticals, and I'll leave it to the president to speak to all of you after the meeting, which I'm very confident he will.
Gotta respect the transparency.
Does a deal will emerge from this meeting, or is he simply going to listen?
I think this is a listening exercise for the president. Look, only one party that's involved in this war is going to be present. And so this is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully bring this war to an end.
Caroline, how did you settle on Alaska as the site for this? So there were some other sites being discussed. This is like it was a midpoint between the two leaders?
There were many sites discussed, but of course Alaska is a state within the United States of America, so the president is very honored and looks forward to hosting President Putin on American soil.
Is there a joint news conference plan, or will the president have a solo one? What sort of scheduling stuff?
Yeah, the mechanics and the scheduling, Steve, are still being ironed out. For Friday, we're working with our Russian counterparts to put those plans into action, and of course we'll keep you all apprised on the logistical details of Friday as soon as we get them. Charlie?
The president said at the podium yesterday twice that he was planning to go to Russia. Was that a verbal slip-up, or does he actually plan to go to Russia?
Perhaps there are plans in the future to travel to Russia, and on Friday the president will be meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, as you know. Phil?
Last week the president said the CEO of Intel was highly conflicted, seeming to cite his past investment with Chinese companies that were doing business with the Chinese military. Yesterday he called his meeting with that CEO a success. So what can you tell us about what the Intel CEO said to President Trump that changed his mind?
The president put out a statement that you cited, Phil. I will leave it at that. He shared his thoughts on that meeting and how it went, and for any further comment on that, I'll leave it to him to make.
Will the Bureau of Labor Statistics continue to put out monthly jobs reports?
Well, look, what I'll tell you about the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I believe that is the plan, and that's the hope, and that these monthly reports will be data that the American people can trust. As you know, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has made massive revisions after the last several reports that they have put out. And there has certainly been a decline in the quality and the reliability of data coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and there's been an increase in revisions. And this president and the administration is finally tackling this problem that so many have talked about, and the president is actually doing something about it. We need to restore new leadership that we can trust. As you know, the president has appointed someone new to take over the BLS, and so we need to look at the means and the methods of how the United States is acquiring this very important data, and all of that is going to be done, and the goal, of course, is to provide honest and good data for the American people to make very important economic decisions on. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions, if I may. The president has talked about land swaps between Russia and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin says he wants Russia to hold on to Russian-occupied territory in eastern Ukraine. Is the White House at all concerned about the messaging that potentially giving over or allowing for Russia to maintain its occupied territory in eastern Ukraine, what that might say to other U.S. adversaries like China?
Look, right now, the President of the United States has done more to end this war than his predecessor, Joe Biden, who allowed this war to take place. This war, don't forget, happened at the result of the weakness and the incompetence of the previous administration. And so the president inherited this conflict, and
all he did was say, stop, don't do it, don't do it. Vladimir said, man, shut the fuck up.
He is determined to end it,
and
it's a very complex and complicated situation. As for the details of the plans that have been kind of tossed back and forth, I won't get into them.
That's another, real quick, that's another thing that people, fail to realize. Most of this shit that's going on had nothing to do with Donald Trump. It had everything to do with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. But because Trump is now the president, now everything is his fault, you know? Oh, Trump said he was going to stop the Russia-Ukraine war on day one. He said he was going to do this to drop food prices on day one. Bruh.
And I will let the President of the United States discuss those plans with the President of Russia, with our European allies, and the President of Ukraine, Zelensky himself as well. Sure, go ahead, in the green.
Zelensky is a snake. He looks like a fucking snake.
You just speak up.
Is there a timeline? Do we know what success looks like, and is it going to last longer than 30 days? And also, is there going to be an immigration enforcement aspect to this?
So can you speak up a little bit? The air conditioning is bumping in here for all of you today after yesterday's heater, so we've got to stock up. You're welcome. Go ahead.
Is there a timeline for the security operations here in D.C., and also is there going to be an immigration component to this, and what would that look like?
Look, if law enforcement officers encounter a criminal in this city, and they are an illegal alien, of course the appropriate measures to detain and deport that individual will be taken, as they should. no city should be a sanctuary for anyone other than law-abiding American citizens, and that has been the position of this administration since day one. As for the timing, we will reevaluate and reassess and make further decisions after this 30-day period is up. But within these 30 days, our entire focus is making sure that this is the most efficient operation possible and that we are removing as many criminals from the streets and we are cleaning up DC as best as we can and working with the Metropolitan Police Department to do that. I know the mayor just spoke several minutes ago. I was watching her on television and she said that an increase of law enforcement officers on the streets will be helpful to deter crime in this city, and we look forward to working with these brave men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department to remove criminals off of our streets and to keep law-abiding citizens in the district safe. Josh.
Thank you. The president weighed in on Jay Powell again today, you might have seen. He said that he's considering allowing a major lawsuit against Powell to proceed because of the quote, horrible and grossly incompetent job he has done. Can you tell us about that? What lawsuit is he talking about?
He's considering a lawsuit, and I won't speak on it any further. I will allow the president to do that himself.
Is it fair to say the administration is considering suing the Fed chair over this renovation?
That's what the president is saying.
Has he had discussions with anyone about this, or is this just like how advanced is this right now?
At this moment in time, the president is considering a lawsuit against the Fed, and I will leave it to him to comment further on it. Tamara, go ahead.
We talked about, very quickly, yesterday we talked about the NVIDIA chips deal the president has struck as well, AMD, the 15% stake that will go to the government. Do you have any detail on how that came about? The president said he asked for 20% from NVIDIA. Did he make the same 20% ask to AMD, and/or is this something the administration is looking to do with other either chips or products, going forward? Is this a model it wants to build on?
Well, look, right now it stands with these two companies. Perhaps it could expand in the future to other companies. I think it's a creative idea and solution. The legality of it, the mechanics of it is still being ironed out by the Department of Commerce, and I would defer you to them for any further details on how it will actually be implemented. But again, this was another idea of the president and his brain trust on his trade team to try to, get good deals for the American people and the American taxpayer.
The report that China is discouraging use of the H20 to some companies. Since this, we're reporting that overnight there was private guidance sent to companies not banning the chip but urging them to steer away from it. I wondered if you have any response to that.
I haven't read the report. I will, and we'll get you a comment on it. Tamara.
Thank you. Last week, the meeting with Putin was sort of described potentially as an opportunity for a deal. Now it's a feeling out. Has there been a shift in expectations within the White House or an effort to temper expectations about what success looks like for this meeting?
I mean, look, I think both can be true, right? The president has always said he wants a peace deal. He wants to see this war come to an end. But this bilateral meeting is a bilateral meeting between one party in this two-party war, right? You need both countries to agree to a deal. The president is accepting this bilateral meeting with Putin on Friday, and I will let him speak further to it after it concludes about how he felt it went.
Also, completely unrelated topic, regarding the president's efforts in Washington, D.C., do you have any specifics about how homeless people will be dealt with, where they would be moved to? What does this look like?
I do, yes, and it's an important question, so thank you for raising it. The Metropolitan Police Department, with the support of the new federal agencies who have been surging on the streets of the District of Columbia, are going to enforce the laws that are already on the books here in Washington, D.C. For far too long, these laws have been completely ignored, and the homelessness problem has ravaged the city. So D.C. Code 22-1307 and D.C. Municipal Regulation 24-100 give the Metropolitan Police Department the authority to take action when it comes to homeless encampments. So homeless individuals will be given the option to leave their encampment, to be taken to a homeless shelter, to be offered addiction or mental health services, and if they refuse, they will be susceptible to fines or to jail time. Again, these are pre-existing laws that are already on the books. They have not been enforced, which is part of the reason for this federalizing of the National Guard to bring in this assistance for law enforcement. While we are targeting criminals and trying to remove criminals off of the streets, we also want to make DC safe and beautiful, and that involves removing mentally disturbed individuals and homeless encampments as well. So we will be using these regulations and code that already exists to clean up our streets. And we've already had great success. Not many of you picked up on this, but the United States Park Police has actually done remarkable work in terms of removing homeless encampments from the city. Since the president signed this executive order in March, 70 homeless encampments have been removed by the U.S. Park Police. There are only 2 homeless encampments remaining in D.
They're going to find a way to flip it. They're going to be like, Trump is trying to lock up homeless people. He is doing, like, my whole thing is this. It's better for them. Shit. They get 3 meals a day. I think it's a good idea, man. Get motherfuckers off the street. And, you know, you offering them treatment and basically you forcing them to get their fucking lives together. Like, I think it's a good idea. Then at the end of the day, if they don't take it, then we're going to throw you in jail. And we're going to force you to get clean. Force you to, you know, if you want to get out, then you got to get clean. So I think it's a good idea, man.
DC federal parks under the National Park Service.
They need to do that in Kensington.
And the removal of those 2 remaining camps is scheduled for this week. So the U.S. Park Police will be leading this effort alongside MPD.
That shit
very
is
quickly,
zombie
he had
land
talked
for
in
real.
one of his social media posts about moving them very far outside of the city. Is that off?
No, it's not off. We're exploring how we could do that. But again, homeless shelters, offered addiction and mental health services, or jail if they refuse are the options on the table right now. And we'll continue to explore that option.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Karoline. President Zelensky said moments ago that he thinks Russia is preparing for a new offensive on at least 3 different areas of the front line. Is this something that you could confirm based on U.S. intelligence? And if the president sees that Putin is indeed planning major new offensive or moving troops, would he call off the meeting on Friday?
I'm not in a position to confirm or deny or comment on that intel at this time. Monica.
Thanks, Caroline. My question
Like, that's like so obvious.
alleges that then Congressman
It's a stupid question, bro.
approved leaking classified information to smear President Trump's image during the Russiagate scandal. Does the president plan to investigate Adam Schiff, and what would accountability look like if more information confirms this report?
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the Russiagate scandal. I brought Tulsi Gabbard out to this podium to talk to you about all of that, and this administration is taking accountability very seriously. As for this new FBI whistleblower report, I understand Kash Patel last night declassified a 302 FBI document showing.
You notice when Joe Biden was in office, right? You didn't see, you had a bunch of made up shit with Trump. You know, oh, he's a felon, 34 felonies, and nobody could tell you, you know, what he's being charged with or what the felonies are. It's a bunch of made up shit, you know, giving money to a porn star. Like what are we talking about? But now the tables have turned and you're seeing that they're coming out with all this evidence with, you know, the Russia host collusion with Hillary Clinton, Obama, and his administration. Now, all of these people, or Letitia James, you know, she went after Trump for basically, I guess, praising his assets wrong or something. I don't know. But I know that it was made up. Now she is literally being investigated for a mortgage fraud herself. So it's so ironic that all of these people who had all of these things to say are now the ones the tables have turned on. And it's coming out that the very things, like that's why I told you, projection is a real thing. Like, and that's what they're best at. In order to get, you know, the spotlight off of me or anybody paying attention to what I'm doing, I'm going to just put it over here. And that's what they do. They do it the best. But the thing is now, Trump is in power. And his people are running the FBI, and, you know, and you got Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence. Like, they got the intelligence now. So they're going through all of this shit, and now it's being exposed that all of these people are frauds, even though we already knew it, but it's just so ironic.
That a whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence
Hear
officer
that?
who worked.
Hold on. Hear that? A whistleblower who is a Democrat. Even they don't like these motherfuckers. You heard about the staffers who came out about Jasmine Crockett. Like, they're all coming out now. They're like, man, fuck this, because they don't like what's going on. A lot of them, you actually do have people who get involved with politics, even if they're not politicians, but they get involved in some way, shape, or form because they want to do good in their communities, and they get attached to these, they're Democrats, so they, get attached to these Democrats, and they think they're going to be doing some great things because they thought this person was so great, and come to find out they were just a piece of shit. And now you got whistleblowers coming out exposing these people.
Does the president plan to investigate Adam Schiff, and what would accountability look like if more information confirms this report?
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the Russiagate scandal. I brought Tulsi Gabbard out to this podium to talk to you about all of that, and this administration is taking accountability very seriously. As for this new FBI whistleblower report, I understand Kash Patel last night declassified a 302 FBI document showing that a whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade, repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then Rep. Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump over the Russiagate scandal. This is obviously a bombshell whistleblower report. Hopefully more people in this room will cover it as such. And I have a quote from the FBI director for all of you. He has said this: "For years, certain officials used their positions to selectively leak classified information to shape political narratives. It was all done with one purpose: to weaponize intelligence and law enforcement for political gain. Those abuses eroded public trust in our institutions. The FBI will now lead the charge with our partners at DOJ, and Congress will have the chance to uncover how political power may have been weaponized and to restore accountability." That's what the administration is focused on, and hopefully we'll see some more media reports on this whistleblower allegation. If this were reversed, if this were allegations against the president or any of these cabinet officials, I'm sure everyone in this room would cover it as such. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. After breaking news everywhere. To federalize the D.C. police, is the president still interested in working with Congress to end the Home Rule Act, something you've talked about in the past? Senator Mike Lee has a bill on it. Is that something he's still interested in?
The president is very much still interested in working with Congress to address many of the issues that have plagued Washington, D.C., such as the cashless bail policy, which has been a complete disaster for the city. Juvenile delinquency is another major problem in the city that Congress can address. So I know Congress is on recess right now. When they get back to work to Washington, this president looks forward to having these conversations with our friends on Capitol Hill so we can work with them to make D.C.
Yeah, that no cash bail thing, it really is like a detriment, because the whole bail reform thing is like, it's really hurting people, because when it happened, I actually went to prison, but so I didn't have no reason to really know about it at the time. When I went back on a violation, I thought motherfuckers was like telling this shit like that because, just from that standpoint, not that I gave a fuck if they were, they weren't, but it was just the fact that they were getting out on charges that I know previously to this whole bail reform thing, they would have went to prison for sure. Like getting caught with bundles of dope and shit like that. And it basically is, you had a bunch of people, they'll get locked up, and based off a point system, that would determine whether you got out or not. You no longer could use a bail bondsman and all of that. So people were just getting out on these serious charges. But then what do? You get out, you go right back and do the same shit. Because motherfuckers in there for 2 days, a day, get right out. And motherfuckers was talking about it. I'm like, nigga, you just told me you got locked up. Like, how you getting out? Like, and they started telling me about this whole bail system thing. And if you got certain points, it's like a point system out here in Jersey. I don't know how it is in other states, but out here it's like a point system. And basically, motherfuckers were just racking up charges, bro. And it's hurting them. You know, it's hurting them because now you're gonna get real serious time. You know what I'm saying? You already was gonna probably get time eventually, you know, once you end up copping out or whatever. But now by the time you done fucked your point system thing up to where you can't get out, you done got 5, 6, 7 charges, and they gonna run all of them concurrent depending on what they are. But at the same time, they could also run them shits consecutive, and you get really fucked. So it's like a thing. It's not really that no cash bail thing really ain't really helped nobody at all. For me personally, I think they looked at it that way. Like, you know what? Because basically people were saying, oh, you can't afford, people can't afford to, post bonds and things like that. So they doing this whole bail reform, making you think that, no, because they don't care whether you get out or not. They don't care. They really don't care. They actually hope you get out so you can go out and commit more crimes. So they can, because once you in there, now you making the money. So it's definitely just it's a crazy,
beautiful again.
fucked
And
up
again,
system.
we encourage Democrats to join us in this effort. Perhaps their approval ratings would move up a little bit if they did. I saw a new poll today. Democrat approval rating is at an all-time low, 32%. If they could just stand by the basic notion of law and order, perhaps they would see that tick up a bit, and we welcome them to do that. Dasha.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump yesterday at this podium indicated this, so has NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, that in order for peace to happen, it is very likely that Ukraine will have to cede some land to Russia. Zelensky has repeatedly said no land for peace. That's not going to happen. Has this administration communicated to Zelensky that he's going to have to change that position?
Look, I appreciate your asking that question in a different way than your colleague Michael in the back. I don't want to get into the details of these negotiations and these discussions that have taken place out of respect for where we are right now, and I'll let the president speak on it further if he wishes to.
One more about Israel. Sure. I know the president has had a call with Prime Minister Netanyahu recently. Netanyahu is planning to seize the remainder of Gaza City. What is the administration's position on this move by Israel's government?
Look, this is an incredibly complex and complicated war that, again, was inherited by this president, by his predecessor, Joe Biden. October 7th was one of the worst days in history. We saw innocent people slaughtered, murdered, kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. This administration has taken extensive time and effort and resources since Inauguration Day in January to end this conflict. We have given many flexible arrangements backed by Israel to Hamas, and unfortunately, Hamas has never agreed. Looking ahead, I will let the president speak on where he sees this going, but this is, of course, an incredibly complex and complicated situation. The administration has made our goal clear. We want to see this conflict end. We want to see the hostages released, and we've tried. The president and his national security team have given extensive effort and time to doing that.
With how Israel has used those resources and the assistance that you've provided?
Look, I'll let the president speak on the further actions that Israel may or may not be taking. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Caroline. Thank you. The Kremlin is expressing interest that Friday's meeting will move beyond just terms to end the war into improving bilateral relations. There's talk over how they're interested in potentially restoring direct flights between Russia and the United States. Is President Trump open to those kind of peripheral conversations, or is this directly focused on ending the war in Ukraine?
I think this conversation on Friday is focused on ending the war in Ukraine as far as the president's perspective goes. Those conversations, I think the president is interested in having, but his main priority right now is ending this war and to stop the killing that has gone on for far too long. You're welcome.
Caroline.
In the back. Go ahead.
Yeah, 2 questions on the economy. So first, we've had small businesses tell us that it's not foreign exporters who are eating the tariffs, it's them. And they've held off on raising prices, but soon they're going to have to raise prices. What is the White House's message to them?
The White House's message to our small business owners across the country is you have never had a better ally or friend or supporter in this White House than President Donald Trump, who is a businessman himself, who understands your concerns and who wants to restore wealth back to our country through the powerful use of tariffs. And that's what he's focused on doing, while simultaneously driving down costs. You have to remember, we are 6 months into this administration, and we had a president who had no business experience, had no idea what he was doing, and who funneled billions of wasteful spending dollars into our economy, which created the worst inflation crisis in a generation. Now this president is focused on tackling inflation, deregulating, cutting costs, cutting red tape to make it easier for small business owners to thrive. And again, the economic indicators show that we are moving in the right direction. In January, when this president showed up to the White House, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate was 3.7%. Today, 6 months later, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate is 2.4%. So we are trending in the right direction. Moving forward, since President Trump took office, for another 6 months, inflation will be tracking at 1.9% at this trajectory. You look at grocery prices, they fell, energy prices fell, fuel oil fell, ship fares fell, propane fell, butter, margarine, eggs, non-prescription drugs. You go through the list of items that are falling. And then I would also point to that report this morning showing that small business optimism has reached a 5-month high. So look, we inherited an economic mess from the previous administration, but this administration is focused on fixing it every day. And part of that is signing the largest tax cuts into law to put more money back into the pockets of these small business owners.
Just on the BLS, they collect the inflation data, obviously. If the jobs data is not reliable, should Americans trust the inflation data?
Well, look, the jobs data has had massive revisions. We want to ensure that all of the data, the inflation data, the jobs data, any data point that is coming out of the BLS is trustworthy and is accurate, which is why the president has restored new leadership at the BLS.
All right, man. If y'all want to check out the rest of this, it's like 40 minutes. It's probably like 10 minutes left. If y'all want to check that out, go to the White House page or just Google Karoline Leavitt press conference today. Yeah, man. So I just wanted to give a little bit of updates on what was going on right now in Washington. They trying to clean shit up and trying to lower the interest rates. Just trying to better America, man. You know, I can't wait for that one big beautiful bill to pass, man. And I got some things that I'm trying to cook up too, you know, business-wise. So, you know, it's definitely going to benefit you if you, you know, start a business. So if I was you, I would start a business now. So you can take advantage of a lot of things that are going to happen come January. So it's going to be beautiful, people. And that's why I called it the one big beautiful bill. It's going to be beautiful seeing that money just falling out your pockets. Yeah, man, but it was a good one. Very political. Sorry if that's not your thing. And as you can tell by my face, I'm tired. So I got work. I work overnight. So I'm going to go get some sleep. And I appreciate anybody for locking in with me. And if you're not already, make sure you not only like, comment, and share my content. Thank you. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time your boy drop a dope video. This the N.G.L.A. podcast. This your boy SL550. I'll let y'all tomorrow. I'm out.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
a poor man prayers.
Every man bleeds,
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.